Welcome back. It has been a long, strange campaign with all kinds of twists and surprises, but we are now only 1 week from Election Day. So we are taking a look at the state of the presidential race 1 week out. Joining me now via Zoom is Jim Moore, political science professor at Pacific University. Jim, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
It's great to be with you this morning.
All right, so what is the state of the race right now? Go through that with me.
Yeah, well, the state of the race is the way it has been basically for the past year and a half, regardless of whether it's Biden or Harris as the Democratic nominee. It's tied. We saw people in this country make up their minds about Trump and Biden earlier than they ever had been, and they really haven't shifted. And so it quickly became clear we had these battleground states. We added in North Carolina. It used to be 6, now it's 7 battleground states. But it's those battleground states are everything. It could be about 40,000 to about 80,000 people actually decide the election as we look at the votes coming in next week. It's stunning the way that the opinions have basically not moved at all, and it's basically tied. Nobody's moving the needle as we go into this last week.
So many online pundits and analysts, they've focused on early voting to try to read the tea leaves, what it's telling them. What does that tell us so far, and what does it not tell us?
Well, I think it tells us a couple of things. For the first thing, it tells us that Republicans are hearing from the top of the ticket, Donald Trump and others, don't do early voting. Early voting is something where it can be manipulated, and yet Republicans are turning out in big numbers to get their early votes in to do mail-in balloting. So this says that people are making their own decisions, which is great. I think what it doesn't tell us, though, is it doesn't tell us what the outcome of the election is going to be, because we see in many, many states that people vote in different patterns and it shifts from election to election. So, for instance, in 2020, we often saw Republicans hold on to their ballots towards the end. So early voting looked really good for Democrats, and then it ended up being a tie no matter what for Senate races, even for the presidency. It was very, very close at the end because Republicans turned in their ballots late. We may be saying a similar thing now. We simply won't know until Election Day and the days after.
Okay, let's go through each candidate here. Give me one reason why you think the Trump campaign should be optimistic about next Tuesday.
Sure. So first reason for optimism, they have a shorter route to 270 electoral college votes. Remember, that's what it takes to win, than Kamala Harris does. If they can do well in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, they can basically wrap this thing up. So they have an easier path. And I think that they're really pushing on that. Trump is also then going around to states trying to kind of mess things up for Harris. But I think that easier path is what makes them more optimistic.
And what about the Harris campaign? Why should they be optimistic?
I think they should be optimistic simply because the Trump campaign, it's not doing a good job reaching out beyond its base. And so there are a lot of places where the Harris's campaign is going where they know they have a good chance. The challenge they face, even though this is a good thing for them, the challenge they face is not getting people who are on the fence to vote, but getting people who otherwise wouldn't vote to vote. So people who've only voted 0 times or 1 time in the last 4 elections, that's where the Harris election chances really are. And I think they're actually feeling good about their chances, not only because of their campaign, but because Trump's campaign is looking a little strange at this point, especially after his Madison Square Garden thing this past weekend. And so the Harris campaign is feeling optimistic there.
Jim, like there have been in past campaigns, there have been a slew of celebrity endorsements, most notable ones for the Democrats, but the Republicans have had their own slate as well. Do those matter at all?
Hardly at all. Somebody actually did research on this a few years ago, and the only celebrity who made any difference was Oprah endorsing Obama in 2008, and that only moved things just a little tiny bit. Other celebrities, it depends on how you relate to the celebrity, things like that, but they generally don't tend to move voters that much, if at all.
One analyst I saw said I almost wouldn't be surprised with any outcome. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. This is, for those of us who are nerds and look at statistics, we're in the cloud of uncertainty, which all statistics have. It would make perfect sense for Trump to win with a landslide in the Electoral College 320 electoral college votes. It would make equally as much sense for Harris to win with 320 electoral college votes. And it would be equally likely for it to be really close, like 275 to 265 in the electoral college votes. All of those are equally likely. That's why people who are really into the data here are saying it's a toss-up, because it could be a landslide either way. It could be right down the middle. We simply cannot tell from the data that we have right now.
Okay, just a few seconds left, Jim. I'd like to ask every analyst this, even though they don't necessarily like to answer. If you had to choose, which campaign would you rather be right now?
Right now, I would rather be the Harris campaign, because they look like they're having more fun. But in terms of, betting something on the outcome, I would bet a nickel on the Trump campaign, but just a nickel, because this thing, I could afford to lose a nickel.
All right, Jim Moore, political science professor at Pacific University. Thanks so much for joining us this morning and talking presidential politics.
Hey, you're welcome.